Well, hello, YouTube Grill fam. I am your host, Weston Scrivener, and it is fantastic to see you again. Thank you so much for watching, and you've guessed it, this is Grilling with, in this case, a cup of Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee with a little bit of Purvia and, oh yeah, a little bit of creatine monohydrate as well. Let me just taste this super quick. So delicious, if you know what I mean. Isn't it great, the ability to taste? Anyway, so you're probably wondering what's been happening and what's grilling. Well, here we go. Today, I am grilling exactly, not one and not three, but precisely two flank steaks. Check it out. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Look at that. Now, I think I'll probably flip it maybe once or twice more. I've got it on low heat and we're kind of just, yeah. Letting them juices simmer. So good. Now, I'd like to continue a theme that I brought up in the YouTube video, A Tale of Two Pieces, in which I addressed Mr. Hegel's Phenomenology of Spirit, and this other dude's book about just mercy. And specifically, I'd like us to think about this. Closeness. What comes to your mind when you think of that word? For me, another series of texts that I think about, and of course I have to think in terms of other books, is Mr. Thomas Merton's work on the Ascent To Truth, which is a commentary on another set of works by another dude whose name I'm forgetting right now. Sorry. I think it's St. John of the Cross, but I could be wrong. Anyway, I thought that I would share with you a couple passages from this book that I've come to love, and maybe you will too. So here we go. First things first, and keep in mind that Mr. Thomas Merton, from what I can remember, was a Trappist monk in the Christian tradition, specifically through the lens of Roman Catholicism. But here he writes in page 295, and I'll let you know the page numbers along the way. He writes that faith tells us of the infinite power of God, which is so great that no word of ours can contain its meaning. But love, which transports the soul into the darkness beyond faith, unites our being to the being of God. In this union, mystics sometimes speak of the soul as being annihilated. They no longer experience their own separate existence. Already, I jumped into a mouthful, and I bet there's a whole can of worms upon worms upon worms to unpack there. But let's just say this super quick, that given that his ideas of faith are acceptable, let's just go with this idea of a mystical union in which the soul is conceived as no longer being separate from God or the absolute, or however else you'd like to put it. Then I gotta say, I think that's pretty cool. And with regard to this darkness beyond faith, or this night of the soul, dark night of the soul, I think it's pretty safe to say I've been kind of there for the past, since 2014-ish. So I guess you can say I've been in this process of deconstructing and reconstructing since then, and it gets stronger and more intense every day. But the idea is closer with God, closer with everything. Doesn't that sound great? I really want that. There's this quote by C.S. Lewis as well. I want God, not my idea of God. I really feel that quote more and more each day. Anyway, we continue. Page 296. Nevertheless, love is the first to admit that her own experience of God is not, strictly speaking, knowledge. Now it's here that the real anguish of the mystical night begins. Now that was what I was just talking about, the mystical night or dark night of the soul, which isn't to be confused with Batman, although we could probably make Batman a great analogy for this. Skipping on to page 297 at the bottom, he writes, if love, which seemed to be heaven itself, suddenly turns into hell, how can it be the solution to the problem? Well, love is no solution. Love is the problem. Skipping on later, he writes in page 298, so if neither the mind nor the will can solve our problem, who can? The answer is to be found in God alone. We cannot see him with our own intelligence, because no intelligence that is not God can see God. God himself must become our vision of God. What a predicament he paints us as being in. And I might tweak some of the words, like if you cornered me one-on-one, but the experience I think that we have in common is pretty much the same. I long for God, and I like to say that God is love, and I like the idea that to experience God is to love. But the truth is that even when I do love, I don't quite comprehend, which means to kind of like fully grasp God. It's kind of like God just eludes my grasp. Does that sound strange to Orthodox Christianity? Maybe to some strands, but I think to some others, probably not that strange to think that. But I still feel it. So here we go onto page 299. He says, love doesn't heal our ignorance. Mystical love is a sickness which vision alone can cure. And I'm going to stop there because I'm trying to make this episode less than 10 minutes, and I still want to get in another picture of the grill. Oh, yeah. But let's think about that for a second while I flip. Yeah, look at that. I guess you could say what I'm feeling and what Mr. Thomas Merton was kind of describing is kind of like I am the meat on the grill, but what I long is to become one with the fire. I want to just go in there and burn and then become one and transfused with the fire. And I think the only right way to end this video after saying that is, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, and I keep trying to learn more every day. But the point is, if there's any truth to any of this, if it's pointing anywhere that's accurate, and if you feel the same pit in your gut that I do, let's just keep fighting forward. We may not got this together, but together, or I guess I didn't say that right. We may not have this feeling that we've got it all together as a person, but all together, you and me, we can fight through and we can persevere. So with that, I'm going to wish you a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful week and a wonderful life. And as always, may the force of God be with you always, ever more deeply, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Your friendly neighborhood Christian Dudist priest, or at least I'm trying to be, signing out. Take care.